touchdown.
We need to be able to execute the fundamentals on offense, defense, and special teams.
They're going to run a fade, and Rutgers is not fooled. It's blocked. They've done it again.
And then do it over and over and over again.
They're coming. It's blocked.
Because the team that does it better is usually the team that wins.
Live from Quaker Steak and Lube on US 1 in Edison, this is the Kyle Flood Show. Your chance to talk with the head coach of the Scarlet Knights. The Kyle Flood Show is also brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world, and by Pepsi. Live in the moment. The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi, live for now. To be part of the show, call 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Now, let's go live to Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison. Here's the voice of the Scarlet Knights, Chris Carlin.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Right here on ScarletKnights.com and on 1450 WCTC in New Brunswick. We are at Quaker Steak and Lube on Route 1 in Edison. And we welcome back Mr. LeGrand, who was on assignment in the desert last week.
Yes.
Eric, how are you?
I'm good. Great. It was great to be out in the sun last weekend. Now I'm back here in Jersey, back at home.
So that's what we call it, huh? We call it on assignment.
That's what we go with.
I like that.
How do I get the assignment? Well, Coach,
it.
we have Eric back with us this week. Good to see you as well. And he does look rested.
He does. He looks good. It's great to have Eric back. But I know I'm sure everybody comes to see us, Chris. But on some level, I know they want to see Eric too.
Well, we want you to be a part of the program, and we've got several ways to do that. As you heard, our telephone number, 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can tweet us your questions at Rutgers Radio for the Scarlet Knights head coach. And if you're here in attendance at Quaker Steak and Lube, by all means, come on up front. We have our microphone set up with our man Jimmy Gill, and he will get you situated. We'd love to have you ask your question for Coach Flood. So the Scarlet Knights coming off a disappointing loss out at Wisconsin this past week. And now, Coach, as you look back at what happened at Camp Randall Stadium, what were the things that you took out of the game?
Well, first and foremost, I think that the things we talk about every week that ultimately decide the game, I think they showed up. 2 of the 3 showed up because the turnovers were a wash. It was 2-2 in terms of turnovers. But the drive start, the starting field position, we really were trying to dig ourselves out of a hole the entire game. I don't know if I've been in a game with that many backed-up situations. There's a couple things go into it. We didn't do a great job on special teams. Our specialists, who've been having a pretty good year, Joe Roth, who's been having an excellent year for us as a punter, probably had his worst day. That didn't help us. The lack of the run game didn't help us, except for one drive, in terms of creating first downs, creating manageable third downs. And when you're playing one of the top 5 defenses in the country, you got to be able to run the ball efficiently. And I didn't feel like we did that throughout the game, and that was part of the field position drive start issue as well.
And when you watch the film, Coach, how hard is it to pick certain parts of the film to implement them into next week and bring them into the game plan for what's going to happen and try to correct those mistakes?
Hey, that's a great question, because I kind of refer to that. You have to be able to look at the game, make the corrections, and then ultimately decide what applies.
Yep. And
Wisconsin's scheme is a little bit unique. It's certainly much different than what we'd seen the week before from Ohio State, and much different than what we're going to see this week from Michigan. But there are some fundamental things every week you look at and you say, okay, we can do this better on defense. We can move a little bit better here on offense. We can do this better in the run game. And those things will apply every week. But schematically, there's a lot of differences week to week.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the field position. The first 4 touchdowns that they scored, the drives all started in Rutgers territory. Had another one later on the turnover. I thought the defense, considering the situations they were put in, actually played pretty well in the game.
They did in the beginning, and it was one of the things where at one point I was on the bench talking to the defense, and I said, listen, keep playing, keep doing what you're doing, keep learning through the game, keep getting better, because you're playing better than you think. Because the short fields really hurt us on defense. You're absolutely right about that.
And, Coach, when you're looking at the defense, Can you talk about how, when it comes to Rutgers defense with the gap schemes, just a few plays, they could have kept you in the game, but just overshot a gap maybe, and that's why, the big plays happen.
Absolutely. And if you're just a little bit wide on a gap and you fit it a little bit wrong, now you're dealing with Corey Clement, who's an excellent football player. Yeah. I think the running back who started the game averaged less than 3 yards a carry. But Corey made some big plays. He made some explosive plays, and that's what he does. And he's a difference maker. We knew that going in, and him coming back, we knew was going to be a factor in the game, and we weren't able to minimize him the way we needed to.
And we know the mantra, win or lose every week, is put it behind you once it happens. When you have a lot of younger players in the program, is that part of the maturing process? Because it's only natural. Heck, I mean, I make a mistake doing something, and sometimes you focus on it. It happens.
Yeah, there's a couple positions on our team that I think really we're trying to train them into that mindset. Because I said this week. I talk about compartmentalizing, about a one-game season. This is the Michigan season, and we got to be completely focused on it. But I've been doing this for a few years, and as a coach, you kind of get into a routine of doing that mentally. But for our younger players, I mean, you look at our secondary right now, and 6 of our top 8 players in the secondary are freshmen or redshirt freshmen, and they're getting better. But the ability to focus and compartmentalize on the next week, that's a learned skill.
And I would expect it to be even more so the case when you're a defensive back. I had the same discussion last night with Antonio Cromartie of the Jets, who had a rough day on Sunday. The entire Jet team had a rough day on Sunday. And when you're playing that position in particular, you have to find a way to make that happen.
There's no question. And when you're playing in the secondary and you're playing against good receivers, they're going to make some plays at times. And 2 or 3 games ago against Indiana, Isaiah Wharton comes up with a big interception. In the Wisconsin game, Bless Austin comes up with a pick 6. Those are plays that ultimately are going to allow those players to gain confidence. And in some ways, they're happening in games where we know we want to perform better, but you still have to be able to take some of the positives out and see some of the maturation of some of these younger players that are playing right now and understand that even though the results aren't what we want, we've got a lot of players in this program that are going to be better for the experience.
How important is it to get right to the team, after the game and you're in the locker room, the message that you share with them? How important is that message, especially after a game with young players, when they're not used to experiences, things like that?
I think it's critical because, as you know, those games are emotional.
Yeah.
And locker rooms are emotional. And you see it from time to time in college or in the NFL. Well, actually, maybe not as much in college because there aren't very many open locker rooms in college football. But in the NFL, you'll see it where the media comes in right after the game and the players are still very emotional. And sometimes there's some interactions there that maybe people the next day would say, I wish that wouldn't have happened. But I think that's part of it. But I think also the leadership on your team has to be part of it because you know that the players are going to be with the players when we get back to campus or when they go on campus after the game. And having the older players in your program help those younger guys in terms of, hey, we're not trying to forget what just happened. We gotta acknowledge it. We got to learn from it. We got to understand it. But our focus then has to go forward. So we're not going to live in denial of it. But we got to go forward. We got to move forward.
And last one for me is just on the quarterback position, as fans are always the most interested in. When you looked back, how did you evaluate Chris? The center exchange was an issue the other day. The numbers weren't great. Hayden got a few series. Evaluate the 2 of them for me, what you saw.
Well, I don't know if there's much to evaluate Hayden on. I think he only threw the ball 6 times. I think one good deep ball, a couple others that weren't so great. But Chris played the majority of the game, and it's a game he's going to be able to learn a lot from. It's not not one of his better performances on the year. Also, not one of the better performances by the supporting cast. And the quarterback's always going to get more credit and more blame, whether things go well or they don't go well. I still believe that he's going to be better for all these experiences, and I think he's had a good week so far. And now we're going to get a chance to get tested again. This will be the 3rd top 5 defense nationally in the last 3 games. So Ohio State, Wisconsin, and now Michigan, all top 5 defenses nationally. So, we're not the only teams they're giving problems to.
No doubt about that.
Hey, Coach,
we'll get into the matchup with Michigan in a sec.
I was going to ask you, Coach, when it comes, I remember you said wind is a big factor when it comes to games, but that was a lot of rain out there,
It was.
too. How does that affect the game and, play calling and stuff? It may not have been that windy, but that rain.
It affected it a little bit. I didn't think we caught it very well. There were some drops in the game on balls that I thought we could have caught, so it was the rain effect. Maybe not. I thought they caught it well, so give them credit. I didn't think they had the same issue. But I do think wind is more of a factor. Going forward this week, it doesn't look like it's going to be an issue, so we're not concerned about it.
All right, team responded since the last couple of days. What have you seen?
I feel good. Yeah, I feel really good about how the team has prepared it, and that's the only way I can judge it. I got that question today from another group, and the only way I can judge it is by the way they go about their business, by the way they show up to the facility in the morning, go through the lifting program, go through the practices, and they've done a good job this week. So I feel good about where we are as a team. We've got a tremendous challenge going to Ann Arbor this week, and we're excited to get there.
And when you get, those opportunities like that, you say playing on Ohio State or Wisconsin and Michigan, how it's really probably not that hard to get the guys up, each and every week, even though if you come off of a loss.
Yeah, and if you're recruiting the right kind of personalities, these are the games they want to play in. This is how they ultimately want to be challenged, and this is who you want to be measured against. And especially for a lot of these younger players in the program who are getting this experience at a very early age, it's really going to help them as they go forward.
We'll take our first time out of the night. We'll come back. We've got a lot to discuss here over the course of the next hour until 8:30 tonight here at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison on Route 1. If you're in the area, by all means, come on by. You can give us a call, 855-FLOOD-44, 855-356-6344. From Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, this is the Kyle Flood Show.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube, Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
At AT&T, we're all about the perks, like getting $300 credit per line when you switch to AT&T with a smartphone trade-in and purchase of any smartphone on AT&T Next. That's 3 perks in one. Get all the perks when you switch to the network with the nation's strongest 4G LTE signal. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Limited time. Each $300 requires a port-in, eligible purchase, activation, and trade-in. $100 bill credit within 90 days. $200 trade-in credit or promo card. Taxes, fees, restrictions apply. Claim based only on national carriers' average 4G LTE signal strength. See store for details.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Consider the cup holder. There's probably one feeling empty next to you right now. No Pepsi, no hope. Just look at it, won't you? All across the country, cup holders are being neglected. Instead of Pepsi, they're being filled with loose change or crumpled up receipts. But you can help. Get a Pepsi and refresh a cup holder's life. Our thirsts are counting on it. In fact, I'm having one right now. That is refreshing. Pepsi, refresh yourself. Refill your cup holder.
Hey, Rutgers season ticket holders, are you tired of sitting on those hard bleachers with no back support? Then we have a deal for you. For a limited time, you can reserve a night cushion for only $60 for the season. That's less than $9 a game. Permanently attached to your ticket location, night cushions provide padded comfort for your back and bottom that's second to none. So don't wait. Visit nightcushion.com. That's nightcushion with a K.com. Or call 800-729-0445 to reserve today.
We're back at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, Route 1 for this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers on the road for the second consecutive week, making their first ever trip to the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan, to face Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. They are 6-2 on the season, and in conference play thus far, they are 3-1. They are currently ranked 16th in the nation. We will get into that matchup, especially on really on both sides, but the defensive side as well. I want to bring up one bit of news that came out today, and that is the graduation success rate of the NCAA came out, and football, the Rutgers football program, well above the average in the FBS at 83, ranked third out of 14 in the Big Ten. Pretty impressive, and that's something it's nothing new. Certainly, it continues to be a real focal point for your program, and something that you guys take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, we do, and it's something that there's a lot of work and a lot of people that go into that. It involves everybody in the program. That's I think a When that goes right, it goes right because your coaches are doing a good job. It goes right because your academic support's doing a good job. It goes right because the student athletes are doing a good job. It's important to them. And, I'm always reminded I got a great picture of this gentleman right here to my right in his graduation gown.
Yeah.
That sits in my office, and it's one of my favorite pictures. And it's the ultimate satisfying moment, I think, for you as a head coach when you get to that day in graduation and you see all those players that you recruited from high school, and now 4 or 5 years later they're in their graduation robes. It's a great day every year.
Yeah, people always get caught up, in the football stuff because you are the football coach. But can you talk about some of that behind-the-scenes stuff when it comes to meeting with Jenna Beverly and Scott Walker and trying to set up a program so the players can be successful?
No question. Like I said, there's a lot of people that go into it, and our academic support is as good as anybody's in the country, if not better. And we feel like we've got the best academic support team in the country. They do a tremendous job. They're part of the program. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people need to understand, and that's the reason why I think it goes as well as it does. And I think our players are very comfortable with them as part of our staff, and they meet with them daily. They meet with them every day before they head out to classes and just check in to make sure they're getting everything that they need. And it's a big job. It's an important job, and we've got the right people doing it.
And with that in mind, I don't know that sometimes we see the forest for the trees, but certainly if you're not in that position or you haven't been in that position like you, Eric, you don't know what the requirements are of the student athlete in particular, not just in terms of classes, practice, lifting, all that stuff, but just from a time management standpoint. I asked you about the younger players before. When do they start to get into that routine where they're comfortable in that heavy workload that they have between everything they're required to do?
Eric, that might be a better question for you because you lived it. I have an idea of what I think. I'll be curious to hear what you say.
I was actually going to say, you're going to comment off of that. It's actually when you come here as a freshman in the summertime, the bridge program is where you really have to learn how to balance your time when you have classes. Well, first you have either lift and breakfast, and then you have to head to class afterwards, and then you come back from meetings. In the beginning, it's like, whoa, it hits you in the face. But by the time the season comes, you talk to the older guys, and, they tell you what to expect. And you get going, rolling in the season. Once that routine comes natural, you're really pretty much good by the end of September. You're seeing what's going on and everything. But I think the biggest thing is when you come in the bridge program in the summertime and you see, what college is like. And then, you have some extra time to get used to it. But then when the season gets going, you're really in that routine, from going to class, going to breakfast, to going to lift, it just becomes natural.
So you think as somebody who lived it, it's really that bridge program that gets it there.
It really does because, like I said, you start off, you got to be at breakfast in the morning. Then either you have a lift in the morning or the afternoon, but you have the class from either 9 to 12 or whatever. That's what we usually started with. So we're getting used to going through that system. And then, okay, once the season starts, okay, I got to be here, got class then. It just becomes natural. Trained behavior becomes instinct, coach.
Trained behavior becomes instinct, no doubt.
I don't know how you would have done that your first, really, before you even started freshman year. The biggest thing I learned as a freshman was not to take an 8 o'clock class. I wasn't an athlete. So,
well, here's one I think that one of the unique things about football is that if you're a college football player, in most years, you're going to play your first game before you go to your first class.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like maybe a winter or a spring sport where you have a little bit of an acclimatization period as a student. You're literally, by the time classes start in the fall, you are in it as a player. You're in full swing, and it's the fall, and it's game week.
Yeah.
So it has all the demands of game week, and then now all of a sudden, boom, here come your college academic requirements, which for the first time you experience it can be overwhelming.
It definitely was a little bit overwhelming. My first semester was a little bit of a struggle, but then I worked with Jenna and them and got the right tutors and understood pretty much everything what was going on by the end of September. But I took my first college class before I even graduated from high school. I remember because my high school graduated a little bit later. And then from there, I was still 17 doing my first game. So
now you're just
crazy. I was young. I got through it, coach. I made it through, so I'm happy. Got to brag about it a little bit.
We have a telephone caller first of the night. It is Paul in Woodland, Texas. Paul, how are you? You're on the Kyle Flood Show.
Thanks for taking the call. Yeah, I have a bit of a problem here. I take a lot of heat down here about Rutgers being in the Big Ten. I think a lot of these people think that they shouldn't be there. In fact, I have a neighbor from Ohio State two doors down, and sometimes I have to look the other way when he comes out. Anyway, we're hopeful that something's going to happen good this weekend, Saturday, and then maybe also we might look to see a quarterback change. Is that possible?
You know, Coach, they always want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, listen, it's the most important position in all of athletics. There's no question about it. And I would tell you this. First thing I would say is I appreciate you calling in and listening in from Texas. That's awesome. The fact that two Big Ten people are living on the same block in Texas has to make it a little bit unique. I thought he was going to tell me his neighbor down the block was from Baylor or TCU, and but I think those schools are probably great examples of schools that maybe 10 years ago people considered non-traditional powers, but have built their programs to the point where now they're ranked ahead of maybe where some of the traditional powers in that state are. So I would tell you, be proud to be a Rutgers alumnus, be proud to be a Rutgers fan. Don't ever look down when he comes down the street. Look him right in the eye and say, we're looking forward to seeing you next year.
All right, Paul. Paul, we appreciate the telephone call. Thanks for checking in. Hey, they listen in. I'm glad to see, passion around the country.
We've got bandwidth. Is that what they call it in the
They
biz?
call it bandwidth.
Bandwidth.
They do. So let's talk a little bit about the routine that just to get back and finish up the thought. From a routine standpoint, now you have a situation being in the Big Ten where you are playing every Saturday. It's a Saturday game. It's not Thursday. It's not Friday. I would have to imagine for those younger guys to get acclimated, that has to help.
I think it does. And I was kind of brought up at this level of football playing on Thursday night and playing on Friday night, so it was probably one of those situations where if you don't know any different, it is what it is. But listening to some of the other coaches in the Big Ten who've been in the league for a long time, and from time to time, the discussion of other conferences playing on those nights comes up, and they're very much against it from a student-athlete experience standpoint. They feel like playing on Saturdays is the best thing for the student-athlete experience, and I could totally see that. I think they're right when they say that. I understand the maybe some of the advantages we've had in the past with exposure of playing on a Thursday night or a Friday night. In the Big Ten, I don't think that's an issue with the Big Ten network. So I'm very, very pleased to be playing on Saturdays.
So I'm about to say, would you rather a Thursday night game, or as a coach-wise, as personal preference, or do you like the Saturday ones?
I don't know if it's a question of rather, because I think those Thursday night games were really good to our program. And as we were building the program and continue to build the program, they were very valuable. The media exposure you get when you're the only game on, and it's really the Monday Night Football of college football.
Yeah.
It was that Thursday night game. And back then, when we were doing it, Eric, the NFL wasn't playing on Thursday night.
Yep.
So now they realized how good it was, and they decided to play on Thursday night too. But that's a whole different topic that we won't get into. But I think we get a tremendous amount of exposure in the Big Ten. The Saturday night primetime game on ESPN 2 weeks ago is a great example of it. I enjoyed my experience of playing on Thursday night, playing on Friday night. But I don't think the Rutgers of today loses anything by not having it.
And just to wrap up, the entire university for the GSR that came out today, how about this? 17 of the 20 teams earned marks above 80% in the graduation success rate. That is pretty darn impressive.
That's exciting.
Yeah, 7th consecutive year with a score of 84 or above for the entire athletic department.
That's tremendous.
Good stuff.
That's a lot to be proud of.
All right, Coach, you got a matchup this week coming with Michigan. Let's get into some of that. First of all, the experience again of going to one of these legendary places in college football history for the first time. It's one of those places that you think about when Rutgers first got into the Big Ten. For the players, I'm sure, we're going to be playing in the big house someday. Here it is. Preparing for it, atmosphere, all the same, I'm sure, as opposed to some of the other places you've already gone.
It is, and it's a place where you have to be conscious of the crowd noise, of the distractions, and we'll do that this week as we practice. We'll put we'll put the sounds on and all that just to make sure we're ready for it. But other than that, we prepare for the game, and it's really more about their players than anything else. There's always a unique challenge to going on the road and trying to be 1-0 in major college football, and I think that's exciting. I think that's enjoyable. I've always enjoyed that, whether it was when we were playing a school like South Florida or a place like Arkansas or Maryland or et cetera. Going to those places the challenge of being 1-0 is really exciting and unique when you're on the road. It's a great environment for college football. So that'll be fun, I think, for the fans and everybody else that travels with us this week.
I got a question, Coach. A lot of people probably wouldn't think of this. I'm thinking, what is your favorite thing? Like, do you like when you leave the hotel and you're 5 minutes away from the stadium, or do you like a little bit of a ride to collect your thoughts? Because I'm thinking, UConn was a little bit of a distance from the hotel, but then you come here, you got a 5-minute ride from the Hyatt. What is your your preference on the bus ride over from the hotel to the stadium?
Yeah, for those of you listening at home who didn't see that, we had some people here trying to distract us, Eric, right here on our radio show. I like to get to the stadium. I like like it is at the home hotel, at the Hyatt. We get out of the Hyatt, we get in the bus, and boom, we're at the stadium, and we do the Scarlet Walk, and that's great. I've never been a fan of a big ride. Maybe it was my playing days back in Division III when we had very few overnights, and sometimes you had a 4-hour ride just to get to the game. So you never had to experience that, Eric, so that was good for you.
Have you ever had any interaction outside of the meetings this year with Coach Harbaugh?
No, I haven't. He's not somebody I have a prior relationship with, so I saw him at Big Ten Media Day and the normal Big Ten head coaches meetings that we go to.
What do you notice as the biggest differences overall this year? Philosophy, offense, defense, the program as a whole. What do you notice the biggest difference this year as opposed to when you faced them last year?
Well, offensively, they're very different. There was a lot more quarterback run involved last year with the personnel that they were playing with. So this year, they're much more of a traditional pro-style offensive football team, which is not surprising to anybody. That's what Coach Harbaugh has been doing for a long time. On defense, there's a lot of similarities. I think what gets lost a little bit in their record last year was how good they were on defense. They were one of the better defenses in the country last year, and they still are. They're a little bit more multiple on first and second down, just a little bit, in terms of what they do. Last year they were a little bit more consistent from a front standpoint. On third down, they're every bit as multiple as they were last year. They've got an excellent third down package, a very challenging third down package. So defensively, I see a lot of similarities. Offensively, I see a different plan in place.
And during the offseason, when before like a new coach like him gets to put stuff on film, do you look at where he prior was, in the NFL as, some of the 49ers tape, and your boy AD over there, you get to check some of that tape out?
Has his phone been ringing this week?
A little insider trading. No. We look at a little bit of it, but once you get past the first 4 games, you really want to see what they're doing this year. Yeah. So you look at it a little bit, but we didn't spend a lot of time on it. You spend most of your offseason study on really the first 4 games.
We have a question from a young lady here in attendance at Quaker Steak and Lube. What's your name?
I'm Lori Kay from North Brunswick, and thank you for calling me a young lady. Question for you, Coach. What time do you prefer to play a game? Is it the 12, the 3:30, or 8, and why?
I play them wherever they put us. I don't judge it. We only get 12 guaranteed to us a year. It's a little bit unique in sports. In the other sports they play a lot more. So to me, it's wherever they put us, I'm good. It doesn't really bother me. I will tell you, there's more of a challenge when you play a road night game because you get back so late or so early in the morning the next day, however you want to look at it, that you do have to adjust things the following week. So I think from a scheduling standpoint, when you're at home, you're really on the same next day's schedule regardless. You're in good shape. But when you play a night game on the road, there are definitely more challenges to doing that.
Great. Thank you.
This past week, you're playing an 11 a.m. Central
Correct.
game. Was that challenging to get guys, I'm sure, out of bed at hours they're maybe not love?
Well, I think it could be, but we practice in the morning.
Right.
So for us, I think, we're built to get up and go. So the 11 a.m. start, we did that at Nebraska last year as well. I don't think that's a factor in the game.
So when you look at a 3:30 start, then does it push back your schedule that much more than the 12 o'clock?
Just a little bit. A little bit. But in terms of getting back, when you're on the road, 3:30 game, you're still back at a time where you've got pretty much a normal Sunday schedule.
Another question from a young man here in attendance. Our guy Raymond is here once again.
I've been waiting.
What's up, Raymond?
Nothing.
What's going on? What's your question this week?
What did you think of Blasan Austin's intercepted touchdown?
Here's what I think. I think it's exciting to see a freshman who had been out for a little bit. Now he's back with us, back playing, and makes a play like that, a very dynamic play. And I think it's something he's going to be able to draw a lot of confidence from. And as he goes forward as a player, it's only going to help him move forward and continue to get better. There's a lot of exciting things happening with those young DBs. And we're starting to see some of them. Isaiah Wharton's interception, Bless's interception, Kai Hesser's interception against Michigan State. We're starting to see some of these things come up in games, not just in practice where I see them as the coach. I think the fans and the people who support our program, they're starting to see it too. So I think it's exciting for Bless and as he goes forward in his career.
Yep.
All right, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Great job. You know, I owe him an apology, and I apologized to Komoko a few weeks ago. Now, I love the uniforms. I absolutely love the uniforms. The numbers are up above. I've had wrong. I said to Bless the other day. I haven't seen him since, but I thought it was Isaiah's at first because I saw the one with Komoko. I thought Quentin Gauze scooped and scored. So I saw Komoko after that game, and I said, I'm sorry. It's like, I get no love.
Hey, Chris, I give you credit with those numbers because I'm sitting there lost. You got the
But
binoculars and everything. I give you credit.
But to be fair, they are sharp-looking uniforms.
I
You're
like
up close.
exactly.
I like them.
You're
Exactly.
up close. All right, we'll take a timeout. We've got more to do. Over the next half hour, I want you to be a part of the program right here on ScarletKnights.com and 1450 AM WCTC. It is this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Give us a call at 855-FLOOD44 or tweet us at Rutgers Radio. And if you're here at Quaker Steak and Lube, come on up and ask your question. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Thanks to Mountain Dew Kickstart, three bros are about to become more than just a bunch of couch bro-tatoes. Hi! The energizing blast of dew and juice is entering their mouths. Soon they'll be sliding across the dance floor as if it was strewn with appeals of bro-nanas. Then this trio of bromios will recite sweet broetry into the ears of any dame that will listen. These guys are bro-professionals. Let's do this. We're coming, world! It all starts with a kick. Mountain Dew Kickstart with dew, juice, and just the right amount of kick. Now available in 6 flavors that taste good.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube, Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
You know where to tune in for the game, but do you know how to bring the game home to you? When it comes to commemorating the experience, IMGProducts.net has you covered. IMGProducts.net is the place to go for official programs and yearbooks from NCAA championships, conference tournaments, and many of the nation's top universities. Relive games and championships for years to come with quality programs containing stats, behind-the-scenes stories, history, and much, much more. IMGProducts.net. We've got you covered.
Looking for the best trained in the electrical business? Look no further. Our members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local Union 456 go through a 5-year nationally recognized apprenticeship program along with OSHA safety certifications, producing the best trained and most up-to-date electricians in the area. Fiber optics, high voltage, lighting retrofits, solar energy, healthcare facilities, school construction, data centers. We do it all. We are also proud to be one of the first building trades locals to be recognized with a drug-free workplace program. We at Local Union 456 are like Coach Flood and the Scarlet Knights, trained and proven to get the job done.
We continue on this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show here at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, Rutgers, and Michigan. This Saturday, 3:30 on the Big Ten Network and on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network at 2:30 with Rutgers Allstate Insurance countdown to kickoff, and the Scarlet Knights taking on the Wolverines. Let's talk a little bit about some of those matchups, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of your assistant coaches as well that we haven't spent a whole lot of time discussing this year, but guys that really are kind of the backbone, I would imagine, of a football program. But with Michigan in particular, we'll start with Scott Logan on Twitter, our buddy Scott, checking in. Coach, with UM allowing just 2.4 yards per carry this year, how do you combat their strong run defense, running back by committee or the hot hand approach?
Well, we're going to start the game the way we've been starting the game, and that's that for us is not going to change. I'm very excited. Right now we've got, over the course of the season, 3 running backs in Paul James, Josh Hicks, and Robert Martin, all averaging over 5 yards a carry. I think in different games you could say that any one of them has had the hot hand or made the big run, and I feel good about any of those 3 guys carrying the ball. So from that standpoint, that's how we'll start the game. And if the opportunity or the situation presents itself a little bit like it did in the fourth quarter against Indiana, will one guy maybe get a few more touches? Certainly, we're always going to be open to that as we get into the game. That's for sure. Michigan presents a lot of challenges in the run game because they are going to load the box. They're determined to stop the run. They're number 2 in the country in run defense, so they do an excellent job at doing it. And I think it's about obviously executing your scheme, but it's a little more than that. I think you got to keep them off balance. If you watch the Minnesota game, I thought they did an excellent job of not only being patient with the runs, because when you're running the ball against a good run defense, you got to be patient and give the runs a chance as you go through the game. You can't abandon it. But also having a nice balance between runs and play actions.
Can you talk about how big it is to make, big plays on one-on-one matchups? And so when a team stacks the box like that and you get your one-on-one matchups and you take your chances down the field, how important is that to actually come up with them?
No question. If you're gonna break one, you're gonna have to either break a tackle or make a guy miss because they're gonna have more in the box than you can block. That's just the way they play. And this team plays more man-to-man coverage, and man coverage allows you to add to the box than anybody else we played this year.
That kind of leads us to a popular question here the last week or two. Leonte Carew, any sense of whether he'll be available to you on Saturday or not?
No, not yet. And it'll be very similar to last week. He'll be a game-time decision, and he's working really hard. He was out of practice today watching. He wasn't participating, but he was watching. And like I said, we'll put out a report a little later in the week, but he's probably looking at another game-time decision.
Yeah, can you talk about with him, too, how important it is for him not to get frustrated at all, with the injuries, and things like that, just trying to get out there on the field. How important is it to him to stay level-headed and lead the team?
Yeah, he's got to stay in the right place. He's got to stay in the right place mentally so that he's, if available physically, he gives him a chance to be ready, mentally. And for us, he's a guy we need him on the field. When you talk about guys like Darius Hamilton and Leonte Carew, you talk about 2 of the top players in the Big Ten. We're a better football team when they're out there.
They do a lot of things with Jabril Peppers on offense, defense, and even specials. Terrific athlete. How do you prepare for him?
A dynamic player. Jabril's a dynamic player, and in the last 2 weeks, they've started to use him a little bit more on offense to give him. They have like a little package for him every week of plays that they will do with him. And if he's back there as the Wildcat guy, that's always a unique situation because now. Not to be too technical, but you got to defend 2 back runs, but they're in 1 back formations. So you got to find ways to cancel the gaps. And again, I know it's a little bit technical, but our defense, we have a Wildcat package to play on defense, so we'll be prepared to do that if we need to. But they don't just play him there; they play him at wide receiver. They run reverses. They ran a double reverse with him 2 weeks ago. So they do a lot of things with him that create challenges because. Anytime he's got the ball in his hands, he's a dynamic player. And you see those things show up in kickoff returns. You see him show up in punt returns where he does an excellent job. And now, like I said, the last 2 weeks, you're starting to see it show up on offense.
How much harder is it as a coach to prepare for a veteran quarterback who's played a long time like Rudock, playing at Iowa and now coming over to Michigan, preparing for what he pretty much seen everything, over his years.
Yeah, Jake's a good player. He's throwing for over 60% completions. He's doing a nice job. He's throwing for 6 touchdowns on the season. Veteran quarterbacks are generally tougher to fool. So you got to do a better job of holding your disguises and holding your rotations so that you're not tipping anything before the snap.
That is Jake Ruddock, and it does sound like he will be available to them this coming Saturday. We saw a little bit of Shane Morris last year, a very little bit, but they're, as Coach was talking about earlier, they were much different with Devin Gardner, and now they have shifted back to that more traditional style offense under Jim Harbaugh. So, Coach, when you look at the way things are developing right now and you have a team that is at this juncture in the year, you've got 4 regular season games left, you focus one at a time. 2/3 of the way through the season, development evaluated as a whole for us, how far away are you from where you would want to be?
It's really tough to answer that question in the heart of a season.
Yeah.
Certainly, we want the results to be better. I mean, that goes without saying. That we want the results to be better. But I see so many spots where I know we're making improvements. Last year we had a 5th-year senior quarterback. This year we've got a first-year starter as a quarterback. A 4th-year senior who had played for 4 years. Now we've got a first-year starter. We've still got 2 of our top 3 running backs are true sophomores. We've got 3 new starters on the offensive line. So I've seen so many improvements since we started this process back in the spring, but it's hard to evaluate it right now without the total body of work for the season. And right now we're in the thick of it. All of our energy right now is going towards what's going to happen this week in Ann Arbor and trying to be 1-0 against Michigan. It's just a tough question to answer at this point in the season.
And I want to ask you now about also bye weeks, what you're learning about with this season, having an earlier bye week, and then, like you said, you're right in the thick of it. So, it's week in and week out. You got to keep
8 straight.
prepared.
Earlier,
exactly, without 2 byes or now
correct.
8 straight.
That's what I was going to say. Not just earlier, but only 1.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my first year as head coach, we had 2. It was 4 games by, 4 games by. This year it's 4 games by and then 8 straight games, 7 of them in the Big Ten Conference. And it's something you got to evaluate every Sunday. You say, all right, hey, how are we going to go through the practice week to make sure that we're giving our players the best chance to feel really good on Saturday? You get to this point in the season, no one feels great on Saturday.
November, Coach.
Yeah, I know. So now nobody's body feels great at this point, but how are we going to give ourselves a chance to feel as good as we can?
We have another telephone call. Fred in Mendon, New Jersey is up next on the Kyle Flood Show. Fred, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Chris. Listen, I was listening to the game Saturday on the radio, and I just want to say enjoy you and Eric and Ray, your broadcast. It really adds to the play. My question was, the first score of the game was a field goal by Wisconsin, and initially you had called it a 50-yarder, and then shortly afterwards you revised it and said officially it was a 49-yard field goal. How did you find that out, and who's in charge of making those official determinations of distances during the game?
Well,
yeah, Chris, I'd like to know that too.
Well, somebody in the press box, whoever's in charge of the official statistics that day, is in charge of it. We have a monitor there with us that kind of updates in real time that tells us what it is. I went off the site of where the spot was and where the spotter was the holder was putting the ball down, and that was at the 40-yard line at the time. So I was counting it off myself, and I did it somewhat unofficially. I apologize for that.
Oh, well, no, it wasn't a criticism.
No, I know.
I was curious if there's an official score like there is in baseball that you wait to hear what the official call is. Sure,
there is, and they are up in the press box, and they will enter it officially into the game statistics. It's not really an official score like baseball, but it is somebody that is in charge of the official statistics for the game, tackles, all that kind of stuff.
Hey, Chris, give our boy Max some credit, too.
That's true.
He helps us out, too, with
That's
distances
true.
a lot.
We have a spotter and statistician in the booth named Max Shiner, former Rutgers student, worked at WRSU, does a great job on the WCTC tailgate show, who can pull up any stat that you want in the blink of an eye.
All right.
He has put up a
He's
giant
good.
monitor in front of us. He is
good.
fantastic. He and Mike Becker do a great job. I appreciate the kind words, but yeah, that's kind of how it goes. I got
to be honest with you, Chris. It sounded like criticism.
Well, he came with some pretty nice words at first. I don't want to not acknowledge them. It's all right. Listen, I am far from Marv Albert, as we have learned over the last several years. Coach, we don't often get a chance to talk about it, but shine a light for us, if you will, on, let's start with a couple of your assistants, the coordinators. Ben McDaniels in his first year as an offensive coordinator, and Joe Rossi now in his third year. Am I correct with that? Yes. Give me a sense of what they mean to you in terms of the day-to-day operation, and first of all, with Ben, how he has adjusted to that role, taking over for Ralph RVision.
Yeah, I feel really good about how Ben has moved into that role, and it's great. It's great to have a guy like Ralph RVision who's on the other side of the phone and talking to us early in the week about maybe some of his observations. But Ben's doing an excellent job of coordinating the offense, working with the offensive staff, calling the games. And I understand when I say that, people say, well, Coach, what about the results the last 2 weeks? I get that. But it's a lot more than just that 2 games. Or, I think you look at the Indiana game, for instance, I thought it was an excellent job by a guy in his first year as an offensive coordinator of really sticking with the plan, of keeping balance in the game, run and pass, in a game where the score at one point might have led you to say, hey, we got to throw it every snap for here. And he never did that. He never abandoned the plan. He felt like and then we got back in. We got 2 quick scores. We got back into it. And then even the last drive, I thought he did an excellent job of calling the last drive. As a staff, I thought we did an excellent job managing the clock so that we could kick a field goal and the game would end. So I see things as we go through the year that I'm really pleased with. I see progress, and I'm at all the practices. I'm in the meetings. I'm at the game. I get a chance to see everything. So some of the progress I see, we're not quite seeing on game day yet, but that's part of the process when you have a young football team and you have first-year starters the way we do. But I feel really good that those things are coming, and I'm excited about it. And with Joe, Joe gives us continuity along with our staff. This is the most continuity this year that we've had as a staff. We're seeing some of the benefits of that in practice. We're seeing some of the benefits of it in games. We're going to see more, I believe, as we go through the rest of the season. We're going to see more of it. But we're also seeing the benefits of it in recruiting. Mm-hmm. And we can't really talk specifically about it, but I'm excited about the way we've recruited this year. And having continuity in the staff helps that. Joe has allowed us to keep a system in place that we believe in as a program. And that's exciting. And to have a guy like Bob Frazier with him in the meeting room who was with Coach Shiano for so many years working on the defensive side of the ball, that kind of continuity on defense helps us be a better program.
How is it dealing with different personalities as coaches too? Each coach has a different personality. How do you go about working with those different personalities as coaches and with players?
I think that's great. I love the fact that we've got a staff of guys who don't all have the same personality.
Yeah.
I don't want a staff of guys that have all the same personality as me. I don't want them all to have the same personalities as each other. I think that's good for the players because one guy may interact with a player better than another coach, and that's okay for a player to have somebody else to talk to, somebody else to go see, and then on the field, I think they complement each other very well. I will tell you, a guy like Jim Panigo's our defensive line coach. If you ever come out and watch practice, he's 100 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah.
And every great D-line coach I've ever worked with has been like that, 100 miles an hour all the time.
You'll spot him pretty quickly.
It doesn't take long.
We'll step aside. I want to get you caught up on one score. The men's soccer team playing down at Maryland and contending for a Big Ten title. Early second half, they do trail Maryland 2-0. They are currently ranked 16th in the country. They win tonight. They need a little bit of help from Ohio State as well for a Big Ten championship. But they certainly have done a terrific job this season.
Coach Donegan's done a tremendous job this season. It's
really,
exciting.
the men's and women's soccer programs.
Both of our, Coach O'Neill, both of our soccer programs are having tremendous seasons.
They really are. We'll keep you updated as we can on Saturday as well with all the doings around Rutgers athletics. Let's take a time out. You're listening to The Kyle Flood Show.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube. Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
Hey, Chris Carlin here, and as the voice of your Rutgers Scarlet Knights, I see the fans' passion for our hometown team come to life every Saturday in the fall. UPS shares this same passion for helping businesses turn a challenge into a solution, because they're not just in the shipping business, they're in the problem-solving business. Visit ups.com/solvers to see how UPS can help your team find the winning formula. UPS, official logistics company of Rutgers Athletics.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
This commercial is brought to you by Brother International, the makers of fax, printers, multifunction printers, scanners, sewing, and embroidery machines. Brother is always at your side.
You can make business cards with your name, print from hiking, hang and frame, sew some shades, block the sun, keep out creepy peeping toms. With Brother at your side, always good times. You got a brother at your side, and whatever follows always ends up in good times. You can make a basket cover for your cat, another for his brother, so they both match. No more mess, make the best label, all relieve that stress. Brother's always undercover and always around. 106 years, better keep on counting. You got a brother at your side, and whatever follows always ends up in good times. With the brother at your side, with the brother at your side.
We are back at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, New Jersey on Route 1. I think our feed of the men's soccer game is a little bit behind because we're being told there's an updated score. Rutgers is on the board. It's a 2-1 game. We just saw it.
Yes!
It is 2-1 now, early in the second half.
I'll tell you
so,
what,
yes.
I missed the boat today because Coach Donegan gave me a soccer jersey, just like the ones they're wearing tonight. I should have had it on tonight.
With the red stripes or the scarlet stripes, I should say.
I missed the boat on that one.
Those are pretty good looking. Those are pretty good looking
It's
jerseys.
a good looking jersey.
All right, Coach. We've got a few more minutes left. I want to touch a few things on just a couple of your other assistants. We certainly had. Speaking of personalities, we know all about Norris. Some of the other guys that maybe folks don't know. One guy that gives you, I would think, a good knowledge base to rely upon when it comes to the Big Ten would be Mitch Browning.
Absolutely. Coach Browning is somebody that I've known for a long time as an offensive line coach, as a younger line coach coming through the profession. Mitch was at Minnesota, I believe, for 11 years, working with a guy like Lawrence Maroney, who was one of their tailbacks at Minnesota, was an excellent player, and they did a tremendous job. He spent 21 years essentially on the same staff when he went from, I think it was Akron or Kent State to Kansas and then to Minnesota, all with the same guys. And has an excellent knowledge of the Big Ten. Somebody who had in the past recruited Ohio for many years, has done a good job for us in recruiting. He's been on the trail a long time. But he creates a steadiness with those offensive linemen. You coach the offensive line for as many years as Mitch has, there's really nothing you haven't seen.
And how important is it building a coaching staff, relationships with these guys? Because as the head coach, ultimately, you oversee everything, but you guys working on your specialties, guys working on your defense, guys working on the offense that you're relying on too. So how important is it to build some type of relationship and I guess a rapport with them? It's important.
It's important that with every coach you hire, that they really fit into the culture that you're trying to create. And I think that's critical. And I really feel like that's what we have. When I walk in the staff room and the 9 full-time assistants are there and the 4 graduate assistants are there, I really feel good that everybody's on the same page, that everybody's working to build the same culture that I want to build. And you talk about even a younger guy on the staff, a friend of yours, and Scott Vallone, who's one of our graduate assistants, works with Coach Panagos with the defensive line. I have always felt it's great to have a couple guys on your staff in your program that came through your program. We've got Scott Vallone as a graduate assistant on defense.
Charlie last year.
Charlie Noonan in the past. A guy like Ramel Meekins, who works in academic support right now. I collect as many nose guards as I can.
There you go.
I got a nose guard in my radio show. I've got a nose guard in the staff room. We've got a nose guard in academics. So we just collect. If we can get Tverdoff, we'll bring him back too. We collect as many nose guards as we can. But no, having those guys, I had Darnell Stapleton on the staff for a year. Mike Teal was on the staff. If you've got a couple of those guys, I think it really helps the players understand the culture of where you're at.
And one last one I'll ask you about, just because fans don't get to maybe hear about him quite as much. Not a position coach, but equally as important, Jeremy Cole, your strength and conditioning coach.
Equally as important is the understatement of the year, because your strength and conditioning staff, and a guy like Joe Giacobbe, another nose guard we've collected, he's down in the weight room. Your strength and conditioning staff spends more time with your players than your coaching staff does. And that's just the nature of the rules in college football. When you go through the summer program and the spring program and coaches are out recruiting, those strength coaches are with your players all year round. And Jeremy does a phenomenal job of instilling the discipline of our program in that weight room.
All right, we'll take one more time out. We've got a couple of minutes left. You've got a couple of tweets to answer as well. From Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, you are listening to The Kyle Flood Show.
At AT&T, we're all about the perks, like getting $300 credit per line when you switch to AT&T with a smartphone trade-in and purchase of any smartphone on AT&T Next. That's 3 perks in one. Get all the perks when you switch to the network with the nation's strongest 4G LTE signal. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Limited time. Each $300 requires a port-in, eligible purchase, activation, and trade-in. $100 bill credit within 90 days. $200 trade-in credit or promo card. Taxes, fees, restrictions apply. Claim based only on national carriers' average 4G LTE signal strength. See store for details.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube, Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Hey, Rutgers season ticket holders, are you tired of sitting on those hard bleachers with no back support? Then we have a deal for you. For a limited time, you can reserve a night cushion for only $60 for the season. That's less than $9 a game. Permanently attached to your ticket location, night cushions provide padded comfort for your back and bottom that's second to none. So don't wait. Visit nightcushion.com. That's nightcushion with a K.com. Or call 800-729-0445 to reserve today.
Honey, did you take care of the party rentals yet?
I drove by Miller's Rentals on Route 1, but it looks like they've closed. We'll have to go someplace else.
No, according to Facebook, Miller's moved to a bigger space at 160 Fieldcrest Avenue in Edison, but their phone number hasn't changed. 732-985-3050.
Great, I'll call now.
Miller's Party Rentals, tents, tables, chairs, linen, staging, and more. Now at 160 Fieldcrest Avenue in Edison. 732-985-3050. Visit MillerRentals.com. Like us on Facebook and receive a discount on your first order. Go Millers!
Couple of minutes left for the Kyle Flood Show at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison. We've got two questions on Twitter real quick for the coach. This one is from Stephen Hirsch. Coach, what's the impact on recruiting of a head-to-head matchup with a school like Michigan?
I believe recruiting's about relationships. I think the significance of it is this. The significance of it is being a member of the Big Ten, being a member of the Big Ten Eastern Division. And if you're recruiting the right kind of players, they want to play against the best. And I still stand by what I said at the beginning of the year. I believe we play in the most competitive division in all of college football. And I want to recruit players that want to be champions of the most competitive division in all of college football. So I think the significance lies more in the affiliation of the conference and the schedule every year and what that schedule gives you access to when you're successful.
And last one, Chris Nowalski. Coach, what are the keys on offense and defense for you to beat Michigan this Saturday?
The keys don't really change. You know, when you're playing a football game, what changes really are the matchups. For us, we got to do a much better job than we did last week in our drive start, which means we got to be better on special teams. We got to be more efficient on offense if we do get backed up. When you start a drive inside the 10 or inside the 5-yard line, every drive you would love to score, but the first goal is 2 first downs or the 20. Because if you can get 2 first downs or the 20-yard line, and then you get a good punt, you've significantly flipped the field. And that's a big deal in football. So we got to do a great job with that. We got to certainly take care of the football and take it away, and create explosive plays, minimize the explosive plays.
Coach, we will see you.
I guess they're playing our song.
I guess they are. Coach, we will see you on Saturday up in Ann Arbor.
All right, we're looking forward to it.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you, Eric.
We will hear from you on the pre- and post-game shows,
Sounds
my
good.
friend. Want to thank our engineer and producer on the radio side, Paul Schrager, and on ScarletKnights.com, Colin Osborne, along with Tim DeMartin. Also, Jimmy Gill and Hasim Phillips from the Rutgers Athletic Communications Office. It's Rutgers and Michigan this coming Saturday, 3:30 kick on BTN, 2:30 for Allstate Insurance Countdown to Kickoff on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network. Make sure you are tuned in as the Scarlet Knights look for their second Big Ten win of the season. For Eric LeGrand and the coach Kyle Flood, I'm Chris Carlin. We'll talk to you on Saturday. Thanks so much for joining us this week on the Kyle Flood Show.
You've been listening to the Kyle Flood Show, live from the Quaker Steak and Lube on US 1 in Edison on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network. The Kyle Flood Show has also been brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world, and by Pepsi. Live in the moment. The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi, live for now.